The alien war camp was cold, full of metal, fire, and fear. Aliens moved quickly, following orders, shouting, dragging weapons, but all of them stayed far away from one tent, the commander's tent. Inside, something strange was happening, something that made even the guards nervous. In the center of the tent stood a human, tall but dirty, beaten but standing. His hands were chained above his head, his face bruised, but his eyes were calm, too calm. Commander Zatharn stepped forward, his armored feet heavy on the metal floor. He was large, with 4 arms and skin like stone. He was feared across the galaxy, known for breaking prisoners in hours. He looked at the human with a twisted smile. "Why aren't you trembling, human?" Zotharn growled, his voice shaking the air. "One word from me, and my pet will devour you." The alien guards laughed, all watching the human closely. But the human didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't beg. He smiled, just a little like. He was waiting for something. It made the guards stop laughing. "Do you not understand?" Zuthan asked, stepping closer. "You are alone here, surrounded, captured, and helpless." Still, the human said nothing. He looked up, his mouth bleeding. Whispered, "You really think I'm alone?" Zatharn growled, annoyed. "You will. Break, just like the others," he said. He waved his hand, and the ground shook. A large gate opened at the back of the tent, and from the darkness came a monster. The alien beast was huge, 6 legs, red eyes, mouth full of sharp teeth. It roared, so loud that the tent's roof shook. Even the guards stepped back, some dropping their weapons. This was Zotharn's favorite weapon, his living pet, trained to eat enemies whole. It crawled toward the human slowly, growling low. Zotharn turned to the human, grinning wide. "Still not afraid?" He asked, "I told you, one word from me, and it ends." But something strange happened. The beast stopped, its eyes locked on the human. It sniffed the air, confused, then growled again. But softer, the human raised his head and looked straight into the beast's eyes. Then, in a calm, cold voice, he said, "Sit," and the beast obeyed. The tent went silent. The guards froze. Zatharn's smile dropped. "What? What did you just do?" He shouted. The beast, his killer pet, was now sitting in front of the human like a tame dog. The human tugged on the chains, and they fell. The guards stepped back, unsure. The human walked forward, past the beast. Not a scratch on him, not a single step rushed. Zotharn tried to shout an order, but no one moved. The guards were scared, not of the beast, but of the human. The human picked up a broken cum from the ground. He clicked a button and said just one word. "Incoming." Outside the tent, the ground began to shake, not from the beast, but from the sky. A loud roar grew louder and louder until something smashed into the camp. A human dropship, black and silent, landed in fire and smoke. From its doors came soldiers, humans in armor, weapons ready. They didn't come to rescue. They came to finish what he started. "Who are you?" Zatharn asked, stepping back. The human looked at him, still calm. "Just the warning," he said. Then the beast turned, looked at Zatharn and roared. It didn't listen to him anymore. Now it only listened to the human. Guards ran, weapons dropped. The tent began to burn, and in the middle of it all, the human stood, calm, still, and free. They had captured the wrong human, and now it was too late to be afraid. The fire burned all around. Smoke rose high into the alien night sky. Screams echoed across the war camp. But inside the tent, there was only silence. Commander Zotharn lay on the ground, blood dripping from his mouth. His pet, the beast he raised from birth, trained to kill on command, was standing over him, not as a guard, but as a threat. Its red eyes stared into his, cold and wild. He tried to speak, to order it back. But the beast only growled louder, and then, without a word, the human stepped beside it, placing one hand on its massive shoulder. "Why?" Zotharn gasped. It was loyal. It was mine. The human looked down at him with calm eyes. "It was never yours," he said. "You used fear. I used trust." The beast stepped aside, no longer protecting the alien warlord, it now followed. The human, like a soldier, follows a commander, and outside more footsteps came humans. Fully armed, silent and deadly, they walked past the beast without fear. They didn't even look at it. This was not the first beast they had turned. Zotharn could only stare. "What are you?" he asked. The human didn't answer because this war had just begun. Outline continued 800+ words earlier that day. Before the fire, before the chains broke, the human had spoken to the beast, not with words, but with presence, with something. Unspoken, the creature had smelled something in him, something different. The human had been trained for this, not just in weapons or tactics, but in connection, in understanding. While the aliens trained monsters to obey by pain, humans studied how to earn loyalty. This beast, this weapon, had felt something it had. Never felt before kindness, even through the blood, even in chains. The human had treated it like a life, not a tool, and now it followed him, not because of orders, but because of choice. As the human and his new ally walked through the burning camp, alien soldiers scattered, some tried to fight, but the beast tore through metal like paper. Others dropped their weapons. Whispering the name, they had heard the name of the human commander. Yalon, one of the aliens said, trembling. The one who doesn't fear monsters? Yalon didn't stop. He had no interest in revenge, only results. He moved with quiet purpose, freeing other prisoners, giving short orders, guiding his team. They'd all come here as part of the mission, but no one expected this. A pet beast changing sides. An entire alien camp collapsing from the inside. Zotharn was dragged outside by two of his own guards. Now unsure, he screamed at them, "Protect me! I am your leader." But they looked at him, then at the human, and slowly let him go. They, too, had seen enough. The human wasn't killing for fun. He was leading with meaning. Even some of the enemy could feel it, near the center of the camp. Yalon stood beside the beast and looked up at the sky. Two more dropships appeared, dark shapes in the night. The mission had shifted. What began as a rescue was now something bigger inside one of the alien barracks. A group of young soldiers hid, scared and confused. They had never seen war like this. Leaders told them humans were savages, emotionless killers, but what they saw now didn't match the story. This human had spared lives, freed prisoners, and even tamed the untamable. Some began to think, some began to question. Zotharn crawled through the dirt alone, his own army gone, his beast gone, his pride shattered. He coughed blood and whispered, "This isn't war. This is something else." Yalon stood over him once more, but this time he didn't speak. Instead, he had no interest in destroying Zotharn when the alien had already destroyed himself. The beast followed, its tail sweeping dust over its former master. Behind them, the camp burned. Ahead of them, a new message spread across the stars. Humans were no longer just surviving. They were leading, and even monsters chose to follow. The fire did not start with flames. It started with fear. A single alien soldier stood at the edge of the camp, staring at the rising smoke. His hands shook. Not from cold, but from something deeper. He dropped his weapon and whispered. He didn't even use a gun. All around the camp, aliens were running, shouting. But there was no order. No commands came from the center anymore, because Commander Zotharn had fallen, and his beast now walked beside the human. They had trained for years to fight humans. They expected explosions, bullets, blood. But what arrived was different. It was silence, calm eyes, and a voice that made even monsters stop. Yalon didn't rush. He walked through the broken camp like he had all the time in the world. The beast followed behind him, sniffing the air, hunting without violence. It didn't need to attack. Fear did the work first, inside the communication tower. Two alien officers tried to send a signal. "Call the Queen," one said. "Tell her we need help." But the screen went black. The signal was already gone. Someone had shut down their tech from inside. "Impossible," one of them muttered, but then they saw it. A human. Inside their control room, just sitting in the corner, watching, waiting, calm. The officers turned to fire, but the human just raised a small device. and pressed a button. Click. The lights went out. The door locked, and the fire alarms began. Not because of smoke, but because the building was rigged to explode. Boom. Outside, alien soldiers ran for cover. But there was nowhere safe. The camp was already falling apart. Explosions hit fuel tanks, towers, supply trucks, but none of the human soldiers were running. They walked through fire like it was rain. The aliens started dropping their weapons not from pain, but from hopelessness. They saw something in the humans they didn't understand. Not anger, not revenge, purpose in the prison sector. Yalin found the cages still full, alien prisoners, not human ones, species the Empire had captured. Tortured, forgotten, he opened the doors without saying a word. Some looked at him in fear, others in confusion. But one small alien child stepped forward and touched his hand. "You're not like them," she said. Yolan nodded. "No," he replied, "and neither are you." That moment changed everything, because those prisoners became his voice. They ran into the streets and shouted to the soldiers, "He freed us. The human helped us. He didn't kill, he saved." The story spread faster than fire. It burned through fear, melted loyalty, broke the lies, and then the soldiers began to listen. Some dropped their weapons. Others stood still, unsure, and just a few turned their weapons toward their own leaders. Commander Zatharn, weak and hiding in the wreckage, heard the cries. He lifted his broken head and saw Yalin walking toward him, the beast at his side, quiet and calm. Zatharn tried to crawl. "Stop him." He shouted to no one, but no one came. His army was gone, his power lost. Yalin stopped in front of him and crouched down. "You built your empire with fire," he said, "and now you're watching it burn." Zatharn spat. "I'll come back. You haven't won." But his voice was weak, shaking. Even he didn't believe his own words. Yalin stood up and turned away. He wasn't here for revenge. He was here to send a message, and the galaxy was already listening. Behind him, the camp continued to collapse. But ahead, more lights appeared. In the sky, not enemy ship signals from other alien groups. They had seen what happened here, and some were ready to talk. The beast growled low, sensing something. Yalin placed a hand on its back and whispered, "Let them come, because this war was never just about soldiers, it was about who the galaxy would follow next." And for the first time, they were choosing humanity, in the deepest part of the royal palace. Where the walls were made of dark stone and the air was always cold, the queen watched the burning war camp on a floating screen. She said nothing, but her long fingers tapped the arm of her bone-covered throne. The room was silent, too silent. Behind her, 6 guards stood frozen. Afraid to breathe, not because of what they saw, but because of what the queen would do next. On the screen, the image zoomed in. A human walking calmly through flames. A monster beast following him like a trained pet, and Zotharn, her son, her strongest general, begging for help. She narrowed her yellow eyes, then stood slowly. Her voice low and sharp like a knife. "Kill him," she whispered. "But your majesty," one guard said, "our best soldiers." She raised a hand, and he stopped talking. "I don't care what it takes," she said. "I want him gone. I want him erased from every world, every memory, every whisper," and just like that, the order was given. Across her empire, secret agents activated, killers. Hunters, machines, all sent after one target, but none of them returned. Outline continued, 800+ words. Days passed. Each day, another elite unit was lost. They sent shadows, assassins, drones, some of the best the queen had. But none of them even touched the human. One drone sent a final image before it was destroyed. Yalin, standing alone on a cliff, looking up at the stars. He wasn't hiding, he was waiting. The queen grew more furious with each failure. Her throne room shook when she screamed, "This is not a man." She said, "He is something else." She sent spies to the old archives, digging for answers. Who was this Yolan? Where did he come from? Why was he so calm, so powerful, so impossible? What they found shocked her. He wasn't from Earth's military. He wasn't a soldier from the old wars. He was something new. A survivor of a forgotten colony, one her empire had destroyed in secret years ago. A small planet with no name, wiped out during expansion. No one was supposed to live. But someone did, and that someone remembered Yalin was not fighting for Earth. He was fighting for the nameless, the lost, the forgotten. And now, his name was being spoken in whispers across the stars. Aliens who once feared humans now looked to them, not because of weapons, but because of him. The Queen summoned her council. Old warlords, scientists, leaders from powerful sectors, they argued, shouted, panicked. He's winning hearts, not battles. One said, he's dangerous. Said another, he's just one man. Said a third, but they were all wrong. Yalin was more than a man now. He was a symbol. And symbols were harder to kill. The Queen knew that, so she made a decision, one final move. She would go herself. No guards, no armies, just her. And one old weapon, hidden for centuries, a throne ship shaped like a dagger. Left her palace in the dead of night. No signal, no escort, just silent fire across the stars. She would find Yalin and end him herself, because only one ruler would stand in the new galaxy, and it would not be him. Meanwhile, Jalen stood in a quiet field, once a battleground, now a garden, around him. Aliens worked beside humans, planting food, building shelters. The beast rested in the sun, its red eyes half closed, peaceful. A child ran up to Yolan with a drawing. It showed him, the beast. And 3 other alien species standing together. He smiled, taking the paper gently. You drew this? He asked. The child nodded. My teacher says you're dangerous, she said. Yalin looked at the drawing again and said, maybe I used to be, but his calm ended when a shadow passed over the sun. He looked up, and his eyes narrowed. No sound, no warning, but something was coming. The Queen had arrived. The Queen stood in the field, where grass grew over blood. Her crown shimmered in the sunlight, but no one bowed, no guards beside her, no army behind her, just her long shadow stretching toward the human. Yalin looked up from where he stood. Dirt on his hands, planting with alien children. He wiped his palms on his clothes slowly. The beast rose from its rest, letting out a low growl. But Yalin raised a hand and it went silent. The Queen tilted her head. Confused, I came to face. A warrior, she said, not a gardener. Yalin stepped forward, calm as ever. You already lost to the warrior. He replied, now you meet the builder, all around them. Workers and children watched from a distance. No one moved, no one spoke. Everyone knew something important was about to happen. The Queen's voice turned sharp. I gave orders. To kill you, she said. I sent assassins, drones, soldiers. Yalin nodded. I know, he said, they're helping us now. She blinked, caught off guard. You're lying. But she saw one of her own former guards teaching young aliens how to weld steel. She saw another building a roof beside a human laughing. Her voice broke for the first time. What are you doing? She whispered. You're breaking the order of the galaxy. Yalin stepped closer. No, he said. I'm showing them what the galaxy could be. She looked around. No flags, no chains, no fear. Just people working together. Not because of power, but because of choice. She hated it. But a small part of her feared it more. This wasn't war. This wasn't conquest. This was change. I can still destroy all of this, she said, her voice rising. I have a weapon you've never seen. Yalin raised an eyebrow. Go ahead, he said. But ask yourself one thing, what happens when no one follows you back? The words hit like a silent strike, because she had seen it already. Planets not answering her calls, fleets going dark, whispers of rebellion in her cities, and all because of one human with no crown. No throne, no army. She turned away, her back stiff, but her shoulders heavy. Why are you doing this? She asked. I took your people, your home, your past. Yalin stood behind her now. The beast beside him? You gave me nothing, he said, but I turned it into something. Better, she spun, rage flaring. You're just one man. Yalan looked her in the eye, calm and steady. I was, he said. Now I'm a mirror. The queen's lips trembled. She saw her reflection in his gaze, not the powerful ruler. But the woman behind the armor, tired, afraid, lost, I was. Born to lead, she whispered. No, Yalan replied. We're born to choose, like all of us. And in front of everyone, the queen ruler of empires. Breaker of worlds lowered her eyes. Her voice cracked like dry glass. What do you want from me? Yulan looked around at the peaceful workers, the growing crops, the children who no longer feared shadows. Then back at her. I want what you stole, he said. Hope. More story progress, 800+ words. The queen followed Yalan through the growing settlement. No guards, no tricks, just silence. He showed her homes being rebuilt, tools shared between species once at war. Stories being told around small fires. I destroyed places like this, she said softly. I know, Yalan replied. That's why you'll help build the next one. She frowned, confused. You're giving me a second chance? No, he said. I'm giving everyone else one. She saw old enemies laughing together. She saw her weapons turned into bridges, walls, water tanks. And something inside her chest cracked, not pain, not shame, but something she hadn't felt in years, maybe guilt, maybe regret, maybe beginning that night. She sat by a fire for the first time in her life without a throne behind her. A young alien girl handed her a cup of water, smiled, and ran off. No fear, no hate, just kindness. She stared into the flames and whispered, What do I do now? Jalen's voice came from the darkness beside her. Start over. And for the first time in her long, cruel life. The queen didn't argue. She simply nodded. Asterisk it started with silence. No commands, no marching, no orders, only a strange quiet. Across the queen's worlds, for the first time in living memory, the voice of fear was gone. No royal broadcasts. No war drums, only whispers. And every whisper carried one name. Yalan. 1 week earlier. 1 week earlier, once ruled by soldiers, an alien child climbed a broken statue and shouted, The human made the beast bow. Crowds turned to listen. Not with fear, but with curiosity. An elder shook her head. That's just a story. But a traitor answered, Then why haven't the patrols returned? Another added, My cousin said the queen walked alone into his camp. And left without a crown. More and more stories spread. It's not just about battles, but about change. A world that once crushed hope now saw it growing in small cracks. Alien farmers who once feared humans now traded seeds with them. Engineers rebuilt ships side by side with their former enemies. A single idea was spreading faster than war ever did. We don't have to fear them in the sky, drones meant. For spying began sending a different signal. Not data, but music. Old Earth music. Simple melodies that drifted through the air like wind. The queen's advisors tried to stop it, tried to shut the channels, threaten the people, block the feeds, but something had shifted. For every channel they closed, 5 more opened, all sharing one message. You don't have to kneel. In the capital city of the Queen's Empire, crowds filled the streets. Not to fight, not to burn, but to build. They carried pieces of old machines. Wood from broken doors, cloth from fallen banners, and they created something new, a statue not of the queen, but of the beast. Not roaring, not killing, but resting. Calm beside a human. An artist stood nearby, explaining to the crowd, the beast followed fear. Until it met someone stronger, stronger than fear, someone asked. Yes, said the artist. Stronger than fear because it had nothing to prove. Inside a distant underground bunker, the queen sat alone. No guards, no crown, just silence. She watched the feeds from across her empire. She saw planets once loyal now, holding hands with humans. She saw prisoners released. Weapons dropped, flags painted over, and still no armies marched, no guns fired. Just change. Fast, loud, and unstoppable. But not through war, through choice. She whispered to herself, I ruled with power. He leads without needing any, meanwhile. Yalan stood at the edge of a cliff, overlooking a city that once burned. Now, it glowed with lanterns, laughter, and life. Beside him, the beast sat like a silent guardian, its eyes no longer red, but soft, curious, almost peaceful, a reporter. Brave or foolish stepped forward, recording, "Why are you here?" She asked. Yalan looked out at the world below and answered, "To give them back what they forgot they had." The reporter blinked. "And what's that?" "Choice," he said simply. That night, across 100 systems, something happened. No one expected. The Queen's royal network, once used for fear, played a message, showed Yolan, standing beside beings of every kind, and he said only one thing: "You are not alone anymore." No threats, no demands, no titles, just unity, and across the stars. Leaders looked at each other and said, what they never dared before: "We want to follow him, not because they had to, but because they chose to." It was raining on the day the war was supposed to return. It wasn't rain from the sky. It was ash soft and gray, falling over the old battlefield. No guns fired, no bombs dropped, but the world held its breath, because someone had come back, and he was not alone. Zotharn's ship landed like a wound reopening, scorched black, scarred from old battles. Its engines screamed like angry ghosts. The hatch opened, and Zotharn stepped out, burned. Armored and hungry for revenge, his eyes were red, not from rage, but from shame. Behind him stood soldiers made from metal, tall and silent. They did not breathe, they did not think, they only obeyed. "Call him," Zotharn said, voice low. "Call the human." Yalan arrived with no army, no armor, only a small group of builders. Teachers and children, and the beast, quiet and watchful, followed him as always. He walked through the ash like it was snow, unshaken, unbothered. Zotharn stared at him, confused. "Where are your soldiers?" he asked. Yalan looked around, then said, "Everywhere, from the hills." Thousands appeared. Aliens, humans, even former enemies, not holding weapons, but holding hands. They came not to fight, but to stand. Zotharn laughed. "But it was weak. You think this is power?" He shouted, "This is weakness. This is cowardice." Yolan stepped forward. "This is choice," he said. "The thing you fear most." Zotharn pulled a blade from his belt. "It ends today," he growled. "You or me?" Yolan nodded. Then, "Speak your last words," he said calmly. The ground trembled, but not from ships. From footsteps, thousands marching, not by force, but by will. People who once obeyed fear now walked behind a man who never asked for power. The fight was short. Because it was never about strength, Zotharn charged. Fast and wild, Yalan stood still. The beast unmoving, at the last second, Yalan sidestepped and whispered. Yalan stumbled, dropped his blade, and looked around. No one moved to help him. Not his metal soldiers, not the skies, not even fear. He fell to his knees in the ash, alone, forgotten, just another shadow in a world waking up to light. Yalan turned to the crowd and raised no weapon. He only spoke. "Power used to mean fear," he said. "But now it means something else." He pointed to the builders behind him, the artists, the farmers. The small alien child holding a broken crown, it means helping, healing, hoping, and the crowd. Thousands strong answered not with cheers but with silence, the kind of silence that comes when the world truly changes. Zotharn was not killed. He was left behind, to watch what peace looked like. To see the people he once ruled choose a different path. The Queen returned, weeks later, not as a ruler, but as a guest. She helped build a new council. Made not of bloodlines, but of voices. The beast now slept beside children in libraries. Its old rage forgotten, its new name written in books, Hope and Yolan. He never took a throne, never wore a crown. He simply walked from world to world, planting ideas where war once grew on one quiet night, years later. A reporter asked him, "Why didn't you take control when they begged you to?" Yalan looked up at the stars and answered with a soft smile. "Because real control means letting go," and with that, he whispered one final word: "Together."